quick disclaimer, this video assumes that you have played Terraria before. You don't need to have played it to watch, but it probably helps to understand some stuff. Also, quick second disclaimer, I forgot to record this entire playthrough, so I had to go back and get all the footage after I had beaten the game. So if I have a very overpowered weapon and a very underpowered boss, well, that's why I had to go back. So sorry about that. Terraria is a great game, but after some time, it can get a bit boring. Luckily we have T-Mod Loader, a community-made mod loader that with Terraria's 1.4 update was made a free DLC if you own the base game. There are plenty of amazing mods out there, ranging from small quality of life mods to complete overhauls. Today we will look at the Terraria mod Calamity. Calamity is a bit like Ultimate Apocalypse for Dawn of War or Multiverse for FTL. It doesn't completely change the game, it just adds more of it. More specifically, 20-ish new bosses, a ton of new NPCs, a ton of new weapons and items, and quote-unquote optional music. Don't play this mod without the music, it's great. Without further ado, let's start with the graphics. What can I say? It looks great. The weapons, the enemies, the bosses, they all look great. Calamity has a slightly different art style compared to normal Terraria. Its sprites kinda look like they were bigger ones but have been scaled down. It's a cool look, but some things might look a bit out of place next to Terraria's normal pixel art. Luckily there's a texture pack you can download separately which changes Terraria to look like Calamity. That's cool. A thing I noticed while playing the game is that there are very few animations used. Instead, Calamity and Terraria 2, to be honest, prefer to simply rotate and stretch sprites and use particle effects. This isn't a negative thing, it's actually quite neat. There are still some animations, just not as many as you might expect. The few there are mostly used to telegraph attacks and such in boss fights, which is animations well spent. The bosses also look very unique compared to each other. Even when 4 bosses use the same color scheme, they all look unique. What adds even more uniqueness is the music. All the boss themes sound different but are distinctly Calamity music. Like, you could put on some Calamity music and I may not be able to tell you the exact name of the track, but I will be able to say that's Calamity music. The Calamity music is so good, and to get that point across, here's a solid 2 minutes of just boss themes. Enjoy! Action bell music is not what I'd expect from a mechanical boss, but it works. The music is great, though I do find the sounds of the mod lacking. Probably because there are very few new sounds. The few new sounds there are mostly used in boss fights to telegraph attacks and such, which is again time and effort well spent. But I do wish there were some new sounds. For example, this is the Photon Ripper, a massive chainsaw, and it sounds just like the normal chainsaw in Terraria. It is a mod, so I won't blame them for reusing sounds, but maybe add something to the Ripper? I don't know. Let's move on. Progression is something Terraria is often praised for being good at, and Calamity is just as good. It is basically just the normal Terraria progression, but it's more and it's longer. More because there is more stuff and ways to do what you already did in base Terraria, like a new class in the form of the Rogue and new weapons for every class, so the Summoner isn't garbage anymore. Longer because when you defeat the Moon Lord, the final boss of base Terraria, you have only beaten about 2/3, maybe 1/2 of the mod. Of course, the main way of progressing is still by defeating bosses. An interesting system Calamity adds is proficiency. When you use a weapon a lot, you gain a proficiency level in whatever class that weapon belongs to, giving you a tiny damage bonus to weapons in that class, which encourages you to stick to one class and level that one up. Then in the next playthrough you can pick another class that plays completely differently. This adds some replayability to an already highly replayable game, but if you don't like the system, you can just turn it off. I think it's time we talk about bosses now. They're amazing. There are 20-ish new bosses and they are all unique. As I have already stated, they look different, they have different music, but they are also very unique in how they go about killing you. Plaguebringer Goliath will dash and shoot missiles at you, while Crabon, whatever, will spawn mushrooms of death. The ways you choose to kill the bosses are also just as unique as how they kill you. You can stab them, you can create flying axes to slash them, or you can use a gun to shoot them with bullets made out of fire. The bosses are by far the best thing about Calamity, but what if you find the bosses too easy? Well, Calamity offers several difficulty options that can be toggled on and off, like Revengeance mode, Death mode, Malice mode. These make the bosses even harder than they were before, and they were very hard before, but they do give you some rewards for beating the bosses on these modes. Not enough to offset the increased difficulty, but still it's nice. The final boss is an endurance test. It's first a bullet hell, then you get chased by this thing, and then more bullet hell, then these two show up, then these things show up, and by the time you get there it's probably your 50th attempt. But eventually you win, and is rewarded with several overpowered weapons and a new overpowered NPC. The final boss of Calamity might be one of the best final bosses ever made, and is something you really need to experience yourself to understand. And also the music. Terraria is only $9.99 on Steam, and Mod Loader is free if you own Terraria, so if you haven't played it, just go and do that now. In conclusion, Calamity is one of the best, if not the best mod ever made. It adds so much to the game without changing it too much. It has amazing boss fights, weapons, music, and it's definitely worth your time. Thanks for watching. If you liked the video, subscribe. If you don't. The next video is a card game. Bye.